Good evening, everyone. This is number three, webinar number three. Um, we are talking about walking. And before we do anything, as we've been practicing each week, I want to do a short attention practice. We've paid attention to our feet in the last couple of talks. This time, I'd like to use our ears. So we're not going to feel our ears. We're actually going to listen. So we're going to listen to a video capture of an autumn stream. So what I'd like you to do is to be able to relax in your seat if you can. So if you can find a way of settling in, that would be terrific. If you happen to be moving along in your car or something like that, just tune your ears up a little bit. So the idea here is to be with the sound. So this is a recording from the Brandywine Conservancy of their stream in the Laurels Preserve. So you can just settle in and let what's coming to your ears come to your ears. Maybe just noticing how this affects you. Just being with the sounds. If you're drawn away from the sounds into a lot of stories about the sounds, see if you can bring yourself back. And perhaps just as this ends, continuing in the quiet for me. Just being right here and checking into how it is with you right now, how it is, how it feels in your body. And maybe noticing what your mind is doing. So if you would like to share something of your experience with that, it would be great if you could put that into the chat or put that into the questions. So, are there questions? Are there no comments? So, I'm going to ask our two guests tonight if they could talk a little bit about their experience with this, and they are experienced with this. So, Stephanie, Julia.
Hi, John. It's really interesting to hear that without the visuals. I think the first thing that I feel is that blood pressure coming down. And
Hmm.
when you think about focusing on one or two sounds, what that does physically to your body in terms of that releasing of pressure and feeling that blood pressure decrease. That was my first thought.
Oh, that's a good feeling, I think. Yeah. Julia, how about you?
It was kind of a transition of being in this moment with everyone here and kind of shifting to the laurels and being in that and getting out of being present in that place. So it was kind
Mm,
of like a little bit of a trip, a mental trip to
yeah.
out of my current location. So
Okay.
it was a nice little vacation.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. So actually we're talking here with Stephanie Armpriester, who's the Director of Conservation and Stewardship at the Brandywine Conservancy, and Julia Steiner, who is an environmental educator. And so they're here to talk with us about walking. And the Brandywine Conservancy has been operating for a very long time, preserving and protecting the water and the land around here. And they have, at this point, preserved over 70,000 acres of land uh, for us to enjoy, listen to, and see and walk over as well. So what we're doing in this program, the learning life skills together, is really focusing right now on our attention and how we can move it around, how it moves around of itself, which we notice as well, and how we can turn it towards ourselves as well so that we learn about our world and about our inner world. And this is what's really important for working with our children, is to be able to show them, here's the world. If you pay attention, you're going to see amazing things, right? And if you pay attention to yourself, you're going to be in touch enough to use those outside things, to understand them, to be able to work with them. And you're going to be able to understand yourself and how to work with yourself. And I think that's the most maybe important part of training our attention, is that we can use it to understand ourselves as well as our world. So what we're recommending is that people go for walks. And going for a walk is a way of turning on your attention. Actually, to be scientific for a minute, just standing up changes how our attention is. It engages a lot of different muscles. It causes us to see and look differently and to hear differently as well. So once we're standing, then we can walk, right? So I'm really interested in talking about walking from a personal point of view, from an experiential point of view. So I'm going to ask each of my guests here, Julia and Stephanie, if they would talk about their experience of walking, because they kind of, in their business, they get paid for walking. They get paid to walk through beautiful places, essentially. So maybe Stephanie, would you like to talk a little bit about your experience
Of
of
course.
walking?
Yes. I walk in a variety of different settings, but when I walk for work, most of them are in our beautiful preserves that are both member preserves, but they're public preserves as well. And so when I personally walk, I feel like it's a sense of renewal for myself. And As we've talked about before, Don, I find myself, when I'm working 9 to 5, you could be stressed with a million different things going on, but a walk will really help center yourself moving forward. So many times I find myself going to the river trail or Harvey's Run Trail on our campus in Chadds Ford. And that provides the opportunity for me to really center myself, pay attention to my own feelings in terms of, do I feel stressed? Do I feel that stress lifting off of my shoulders as I'm now paying attention around me? So checking in with myself as I start my walk, but as I move through the process and going through and paying attention to the new bloom that's happening this spring or elsewhere on campus, I direct my energies outward to identify a lot of the observation elements. And I find myself bringing my stress down because of what I'm observing. And so I like to take a half-hour walk, and that's enough for me to be able to, again, pay attention to myself and my surroundings and bringing down that stress level.
So that's the work walk.
It's the work walk.
The work walk. How about the Just Stephanie walk?
Well, on my personal side, during COVID, my neighbor reached out to me and said, would you be interested in taking a walk? We were very much in an isolated time in 2020. So when you think about build up feelings of maybe nervousness or anxiety, thinking about the world changing around you, and there was a time of really uncertainty. So walking with my neighbor during COVID provided an outlet for me to bond with other people. So in terms of community, being able to express yourself, but also pay attention to your surroundings, and connecting with others has been really important to me. So we started 3 years ago, and we still do it multiple days a week. And I find that to be probably one of the most fulfilling things, because not only am I doing it for myself, but I'm doing it with another.
Yeah. So this idea of going for a walk sort of across the week, like a day and then another day and another day. How is that for you? Do you, I don't know. Do you have trouble sometimes getting out there and doing that? I mean, it seems like taking something like that on is a commitment.
It is. And we certainly understand, and I'm very busy, and so is my neighbor. And what we've decided to do is, even though we know that we have our busy schedules, we will carve out a certain number of times per week to do that. And I wanted to actually share a photo of myself and my neighbor, because I can't start screen sharing at this moment, but I could help basically describe it to others. We take the time. Go ahead.
There you go. You can start.
Let's here. Let's see. So when my neighbor and I started walking, we did it just to have some sort of connection. And, and we were sitting around a lot, and we really wanted to be healthier too. But we found that we had much more in common than we thought. And here's my neighbor, Deb, that we walk with at least 4 days a week.
Wow.
And yeah, she's great. And she works in school settings. And so, she really wants to get out and start moving too, because we have physical benefits of walking. But at the same time, again, we're building community with each other, and we use each other as sounding boards, and we're able to help each other. Having that support system is really important to me personally. And so walking, from my perspective, both for my job and me personally, is something that's consistent. And it doesn't matter if you are in a city and you have a sidewalk that you can walk on for 5 minutes, or, in our neighborhood, we don't have sidewalks either, but we do a 2-mile walk at least 4 days a week. And it may not be a 900-acre preserve like the Laurels, but it certainly provides the benefit from a mental health and a physical health perspective.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. So you get the exercise, and the exercise really changes how you are.
Mm-hmm.
It changes your brain chemistry as well as, yeah, as well as what's up with your body. So one of the things that I'm interested in is you're walking with somebody and you're talking.
Yes.
And so what are those conversations like? Are they just silly, or does walking influence how you talk? I guess is what I'm really getting at.
It's both. I feel like it's a lot of times the pace that we're going, I think that also dictates like how we're talking to each other. And then when we're walking slower, I feel like it's more meditative, across the board. So we both talk and sometimes we don't talk, and both is fine. And we find time to laugh, we find time to support each other, but we also find time to sit in the silence together too as we walk.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just sort of using that as a way of thinking about walking with a child.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that sometimes there are things that you can say and conversations that you can have when you're walking that you probably wouldn't have otherwise, if you were sitting in the house together, something.
We certainly have conversations about dreams and traveling and things that if you're sitting down or watching TV with a family member, those things wouldn't pop up
Yeah,
as much.
yeah.
And I think walking does release, for me at least, some more not like stress relieving, but also creative powers as well as we're paying attention to each other, but also our surroundings. So we do have very interesting topics that we love
Mm,
to share with each other.
yeah, wonderful. Thank you. And so I'm going to put Julia on the spot now.
Guess I will follow a similar path with starting with how well, first of all, thank you for having us here, share our
Oh,
stories.
no, this is
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
I guess it with my role, I see myself as a support for my colleagues and for our organization. In my role, I work with the Conservancy, but I also support the museum, which gives me the opportunity to explore walks in a different way. I'm always meeting in different parts of the campus than I get to see different parts of the campus and meet different people when I'm walking around in my everyday role. As Stephanie said, for her walks, I look at going for a walk not as just a de-stressor, but it's a creative process for me. In my role, it's I do a lot of different things. So sitting doesn't always serve my role. I need to move to have that creativity. So I enjoy, going for a walk between meetings around campus. I travel around, so sometimes I'll be at our preserves doing programs with people. So it kind of just depends. Every day looks a little different. So I appreciate the opportunity to visit all the different places. And then when we work with different partners, I get to go for walks, when I'm going to meet with them, whether it's an urban setting or a more rural or a suburban. So it provides a lot of different opportunities to interact with nature and experience different things. And a lot of times when I'm working on projects, it's my job to actually go out and be in nature. So it's nice.
Mhm.
It's relaxing, but it's also, I think in this role, it's really given me the opportunity, if I'm feeling like stuck on a topic, I will go for a walk in the space where, we're doing a program or just to kind of inspire. And sometimes I have the opportunity to work with other people on projects. So I'll suggest having a meeting like as a walking meeting. And it's a creative way to collaborate, but also fulfill my role and support others.
Yeah. So when you suggest a walking meeting, what happens?
I feel like it's an opportunity. Many times I'll do that with new staff. Now that I'm, in the role and I feel like I've learned and I can share and support them, I'll invite them, let's go walk on as Stephanie said, on our campus trails. We have our main campus, which is where the museum is, and some of our office, our staff work there. But we also have extensive meadows close by that, we have access to. So sometimes we'll go get a longer walk in and just experience, have a little more open space. And we'll talk about different projects. I'll share information about the property. We'll talk about things in nature, noticing different things, the sounds you talked a little bit about when you're with younger audiences, or just, just experiencing that and experiencing, working in this place, but also it encompasses the outdoors and surroundings as well, not just the organization, but the spaces that go with what, the work we do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it provides an opportunity for a holistic feeling of, the work we do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I was just wondering about that inviting someone for a walk thing. Again, just thinking about, is the application of this idea of going for a walk. You say to somebody, would you like to go for a walk? And there could be all kinds of different responses to that. Like, I'm cool. and so it's like, when you get started, I think, on a walk, things change. The way you feel changes. There's a psychological forecasting that humans do of how they're going to feel about something. We say, oh, I don't really know. It's not going to be fun. I'm not going to like this. And we're mostly wrong. I mean, this is what the science shows, is that we're very poor at forecasting how we're going to feel when we're doing something. So I always sort of keep that in mind when I give, invitations to try something. Well, maybe, just maybe you should try it. So yeah, so you're walking for your job, and then how about walking for Julia?
I'll provide a contrast to Stephanie's story. It's nice to hear different, how people. I enjoy walking with others. I think that's historically my preference. I enjoy talking, and as Stephanie said, it's a great way to connect with different people and share ideas. So I had an injury about a year ago. I'll talk currently. I enjoy doing everything outside. I enjoy jogging, biking, things like that. But to focus on the walking, I had a limitation. So it was a great opportunity for me to kind of reconnect with myself and appreciate the benefits of walking when I was not able to do some of the other things. So I have really developed an appreciation for just going for long walks when I have the opportunity. I enjoy quick walks too. But I really, if I have the time and I can go for just a really long walk, I go at a preserve near my house that it's, open space. But what I appreciate is there's all different opportunities there to, walk in the woods. So if it's really sunny and you want to have that shade, or just, that buffer of feeling, surrounded by trees, or if you want that opportunity to go walk in a meadow and have the sun on your skin and things like that, or you want to hear the water, that sound in the creek. So yeah, I enjoy walking with others, but I've been trying to, find connection in myself by going for walks by myself, long walks where I kind of have that opportunity to focus, to pay attention to my thoughts, and then how I'm engaging with nature and how I'm feeling, those check-ins. I enjoy both, but currently I've been trying to do my own walks and practice those, that connection and how does that feel. And then, I'm able to notice things in nature that I don't when if I'm walking with someone perhaps, or I have something else going on, I just am able to notice different things. So it's been an opportunity for that as well, that I can share with others in my role.
So when you're walking by yourself or with yourself, there's that sense of paying attention that turns in both directions. and is, I want to say, is very clear and crisp. It's like when you're on your own and you're looking at nature and you're looking at things, you're there's no distraction of the other person. And I mean, this is my experience. And so if I see a cluster of mushrooms, I'm going to go over to it and I'm going to, look deeply at it and see what's really going on there. And at the same time, if I'm walking along and I'm noticing how I'm feeling or I'm recalling something, a memory, I can let it just play and really, spend the time with it. So yeah, I really hear what you're saying, Julia.
It's an opportunity for that space.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, yes. And then when those opportunities come up for a walk with someone, I enjoy those as well.
Yeah, so we sort of have to do both. And in this program where we're looking at walking with kids, it's really good for us as the adults to do our own walks sometimes to be able to get, to that clarity on ourselves, to understand what's going on, and also to enjoy things in a different way. I think to enjoy the nature or whatever it is we happen to be walking through. I mean, your biz is all about the natural world, and the urban environment is something to walk through and remark on as well. So, yeah. I led a class today on a walk. Well, I didn't lead them. They went way ahead of me because they're like 20 and I'm like older than that. And so we walked into the town of Westchester from the campus and walked through the town. And when we sat and talked about it, about midway through the walk, they were talking about there was this building that, so they were really paying attention to the features of the downtown environment. Just as we do when we look at a beautiful tree or a bush or a pool in the stream. So that was interesting. And so I think when we do that for ourselves and then share those things with our children, it gives us a real sense of being able to share something rather than to scramble, and try to keep up. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I work walking in the urban environment myself. My academic background is in historic preservation, so I also enjoy urban walks because of those building details or lot details or even historic road details. But I for those that do urban walking, there's a lot in the spaces in between that you don't see in a car that I think is really important when you're paying attention to think about spatial relationships, but small gardens or animals that, when you're driving by, you would never notice in the first place. But there are a lot of interesting things in those spaces in between. And that's I think the joy of the urban walking.
Yeah, yeah. Even in a big city, there's a
Yep.
sticking up somewhere and
Mhm.
a squirrel.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so it's watching those things and paying attention to them. That's really a part, I think, of this training the attention on the outside so that we can reflect it on the inside. So you go for a walk. Now, the folks that are taking this program are going to go for walks, and towards the end here, we're going to talk about one for them specifically that we've put together for them. But one of the things that I'm thinking about is, how do you say, okay, let's go for a walk. There's that little pocket park not far from us. Let's take the kids and just walk through. What are some things that they might focus on that might be, you know, things that are really drawing of our attention and at the same time might be fun for the younger ones?
For us that do urban walking, it's wildlife that you might see, it's different sounds that you might hear. And the things that always draw me the most are what flowers are blooming and those that are also not doing so well, which ones are wilting, thinking about the seasonality of things. Um, Walking with kids is really interesting because their perspectives, literally because of heights, are very different than ours. And also letting them lead to pick out some things, I think is really important and have discussions about that.
Yeah, yeah. So you can almost make up a theme for the walk. Like I love saying about, and the flowers that aren't doing so well, you know,
Yeah.
as things are changing. So it's like, I mean, right now it's the beginning of October, which is a moment at which daily changes, hourly changes are happening in the landscape and the things that we walk past. And so to say, okay, let's walk today. And then when we walk, you know, on Saturday, in 2 days, let's see what's different. Let's see what's changed. So really notice these things. So Julia, how about you? Do you have some things that you would point to for folks?
It's nice to give younger audiences like a choice. What would you like to, maybe it's a color. And then as Dawn, you said, maybe if you're coming back, it's choosing a different color because you're noticing something different. And as you said, it's like visiting those places again to see a different perspective. A lot of when we do programs or things with younger audiences, I like to say audiences of all ages because we're all just big kids.
Oh,
but
we're
we have to stay curious. But so it's nice to just focusing on the sensory and and find it, maybe, you're wanting, you're, more focused with with sounds or as Stephanie said, noticing colors and textures, of flowers. It's really an opportunity to highlight the interests of that child or, that person going on the walk. So it does feel more something they want to, they're self-directed in a way, and they're, it's not they're going to want to go out and continue it because it's their choice and they can apply that concept wherever they choose, whether it's urban or suburban, in their yard or down the street, their neighborhood. It's a concept that can kind of travel anywhere with them because your senses go with you. So, depending, and the seasonal is an interesting too. And as you said, visiting even a couple weeks, things can look different. So those are, I would say sensory is a great place to start, whether it's sounds, sights, feel, texture, feeling, depending on the child or, the person going for a walk, whatever feels best for them, and that they can find that as Stephanie said, release and feeling calm and enjoyment. And
right. So you can just walk out your door and go for a walk is one of the things that we're saying. Just where you are, you can just go for a walk. And then there are places that you can go for a walk that are sort of rich with something or other to go and experience. Can you talk a little bit about some of the opportunities that there are right here in Chester County?
Mhm.
Uh,
I can start. I have three places that I love.
Okay.
One, as I mentioned before, is our campus in Chadds Ford. We have over 5 miles of trails, all of which offer something different depending on your age and your ability. My favorite is probably the River Trail, which is going to be the highlight of our event on Saturday, October 21st, and we're excited to talk with you about that. And my second favorite is Birmingham Hill, and that's right up the road in Birmingham Township. And that focuses on a battlefield, but has, to me, is very restorative in terms of the walk that I take there. They have a trail, a perimeter trail, and our natural resource manager has been able to transform a lot of the landscape into natural meadows, which has attracted a lot of birds, which right now are migrating.
Yeah.
And it's just something different to see outside of the Brandywine Creek, but something that is equally as important to us and our identities.
Yeah. So Birmingham Hill,
Mhm.
is there a hill that
There
you
is
a
a bit of a hill.
bit of a hill? Okay.
Yeah. It's the core battle action of the Battle of Brandywine on September 11th, 1777. And the Conservancy purchased that property in two parts in 2007 and 2018. And it totals about 113 acres. And so we think about the lives that were lost there, but it's a good place to reflect, take a walk, and really but turn outward as well in terms of your senses.
Yeah. So you said that the trail is a perimeter trail, so it goes around the whole property. Does
It
it
does.
go around the hill? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, it goes along the hill, along one of the contours. Yeah. So,
I was
but the trail is on the eastern side and the northern side of the property.
okay. Cool.
And my last one is the Glenroy Preserve. So that is in western Chester County for those that live on the western side, near the Octoraro Creek.
Hmm.
It's over 500 acres, and it's owned by the Oxford Area Foundation. And they have nearly 9 miles of trails on that property, which is wonderful. And it's certainly a preserve where you can get lost in terms of yourself, in terms of feeling surrounded by nature. Very well marked trails. But if you really want to immerse yourself in nature, Glenroy is a really great place to go. And you have access to the creek. They just installed some the pollinator and wildflower gardens, of which I have another photo. And all of those, again, have very different experiences, but are attuned to different people's tastes and senses.
Yeah. And it sounds like that's a place that you could go again and again and again and not repeat the experience even.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. There's this whole sort of thinking about, well, where are we going to go this weekend, or where are we going to do our big walk?
Mhm.
Let's walk out the door and do Tuesday's walk, but maybe Saturday let's go someplace cool. And so you're pointing up some great ones that might have some different things. Yeah. Okay. So wow, you challenged us with 3 here. So Julia, have you got 3?
Yeah, Stephanie, I'll highlight some when I'm working and just, what's accessible to folks all over the county and who might be, tuning in or watching the recording. My whole thing is what's accessible. And Stephanie had some wonderful suggestions for those, like you said, down to some of those longer walks and really getting in nature. And sometimes during the week, you don't have, if you just want to get outside locally in your yard. Some things I like to do if I'm just looking for accessible things close by. Even just walks through, if you're near a town, if you can walk, even just walking through, for example, Kennett Square, there's parks in town. If you're in Westchester, Don, you mentioned you take your class, you go for walks in Westchester. There's little pocket garden or pocket parks, those opportunities to just get lost in those. And then just other opportunities. There's other, just other parks all over the county. There's other, opportunities like that too. That we'll share some resources after, where folks can find places close to them, since people might be in all different parts of the county. There's lots of public preserves for people to find close to them that you can look up. And we actually have an app we're developing that will highlight some of those areas that people can find what's close to them and accessible. Sometimes you don't want to have to get in the car, or sometimes you just, want to go close by, and folks don't even realize like there's something just down the road from them, and just those new opportunities. I also like to do the whole, like, if you have a small yard or a garden, like just doing a walk through your garden. Sometimes I'll do that in the morning. I'll just go for a little, before I start my day, just to clear my head out, going out and walking in your garden, or walking in your yard, or just around the block, around your neighborhood, whatever is accessible.
That's so true. Not just in the getting the exercise or being in nature, there's just plain the attention. What if you're going to have to walk from one side of your kitchen to the other, you can pay attention to doing that walking, and there's something about that sort of changes how we're focused, and can really clear us up a little bit. Just to say, okay.
As you mentioned, I was actually going to say, sometimes if you can't get outside, if you're just, you're working, or there's, like you said, just walking around, listening, maybe opening the window and using that sensory of, what do you hear outside? Can you hear the birds? Or, maybe it's just looking out the window and seeing that bright color, just as a little, a walk, a little break.
Yeah. So, wow. So I wanted to suggest a couple of places for walks. So I'll just do two. So the first one is for the younger kids, and it's Black Rock Park outside of Phoenixville, which my wife and I, without a child, have visited several times. But she is an early education person, and was just absolutely enraptured with what's there for kids. I mean, there are footprints of various animals that you can walk in, and just, it's beautifully curated and paved, and so it's highly accessible. Just a great spot. And so on the other side of that, I want to suggest a challenge. And so this is a walk that I have been doing for probably more than 50 years at any rate. So I discovered it when I could drive a car. So let's just say that, but very early on. And it's the Mount Misery Trail in Valley Forge Park. And actually trails, there's a network of them crossing Mount Misery, and that is also where the Horseshoe Trail begins. And so it's a little rugged. It will get your breathing going. The inclines are pretty good, and lots of rocks and roots and things. So it's a challenge to walk. And I see families walking it all the time. I walk it by myself. It's like my Saturday walk, that the longer, more challenging one. So it's wonderful, because when you get to the top, you look across the creek, you look across Valley Creek, and you see Mount Joy. And then, because whoever named it was coming from the west and got to Mount Misery and had a bad time, and then they finally made it to Mount Joy. So that's a little bit of our life right there, I guess, as well. So yeah. So I really want to stick with the nuts and bolts for a minute, because in our conversations that we've had, we talked about some things that you should be thinking about when you're going on a walk in terms of what are you going to bring with you, and what would really help your walk along and help you enjoy it more. And so, what would you recommend for people? I mean, these aren't expensive things. These are easy things to do, I think. Probably the most expensive is shoes. So,
And that's probably one of the first things I would recommend is being comfortable with the shoes that you like to walk in, so that you can enjoy your time and not think about if you're in pain or you have a blister. Just having comfortable shoes is really important. Having water is also very important. Being, especially if you're taking a walk in the summer and you feel like it's going to be hot, making sure that you have enough to hydrate yourself. And then always checking the weather forecast to take a jacket if it rains.
yeah. So other things that you might think about that would open up a walk for somebody. So,
If you're looking for specifics, if based on interest, if you're looking to expand and learn more as you're going.
about is okay. I like flowers. I like plants. What do I do? How can I learn more?
So it's kind of a balance of if you're bringing your technology with you, it's always okay, bring if you have a phone, if you're bringing a phone for safety or to have, somebody so you can reach someone. But it's a balance as if you're curious, right? And you want to learn what that plant is. It's a great opportunity to, use technology in a healthy way to learn about nature that you wouldn't otherwise have that opportunity to if you just went without it. So if you want to learn about plants, you could always bring a guidebook. You don't have to purchase it, get it from the library, but you have a plant guidebook if you don't want to bring a phone. But if you have a phone and you want to, it's a great way to capture that memory of it too. There are some different apps such as Seek. It's like iNaturalist Seek. Seek it does not require you to really sign up and have that social connection. It's just artificial intelligence. It helps you kind of identify plants. And Stephanie and we always talk about, it's a great way to if you're I don't know what that plant is, but I want to learn. It's a great kind of introduction where you can take that information and learn more later and not sit there and look at your phone, looking it up too long, but it will capture it, record it kind of like a journal. So you can always go back to it later after your walk when you check back in and you want to reflect on what you saw. Another one is if you're, interested in birds. We don't always have to know what they are. We can just be curious and watch them and and don't have to label them. But some people, they love to keep track of all the different species of birds they see. So there are apps like Merlin is a bird ID. It also has an audio where you can listen, to listen and help to identify the bird. But that's another way to capture information. And again, if you want to go less tech, you can always bring a pair of binoculars to notice.
Yeah.
And not just for wildlife, but maybe other things in nature you're seeing as well.
So I want to say, if you've got your phone along with you, you could not use any of those things, but you could use the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Walking with the camera is kind of a different kind of attention too.
It's probably one of my favorite things to do. I feel like I get inspired by nature, and that is when I take out my phone, and it's to capture something. But I also want to make sure, though, that I'm living in that moment and taking that in. So it's equally as important, because I feel like even after I've captured it, it doesn't feel as authentic or real as when I was experiencing it in the moment. So I find myself doing that frequently. I also find myself, particularly after a walk, sitting on a bench in a preserve and just sitting and observing. And that's where some of my tools come in, like Seek or Merlin, because then you're starting to watch. You're not walking in front of you, or thinking about, are you going to trip over a tree root? Being able to just sit, watch, and take in is also really important. And these tools can help you do that.
Yeah, yeah. And so I want to say there's a real simple tool that's time tested, and that is to bring along a notebook and a pencil.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
when you feel like stopping, stop. You can sketch, you can write some things down, you can have a poem started in your head. All kinds of things are possible. And so there's a reflective part of walking too that I think is really important and historic. Philosophers have always been great walkers, and the early American philosophers like Emerson and Thoreau they walked every day for quite amazing amounts of time. Now, Emerson used to be followed by one of his servants who would stop him and say, "You need lunch," and then give him his lunch. And, they would sort of chase him down because he would just go off and philosophize. But
it's always good to bring a snack too
it's
sometimes.
always good or have someone bring you one.
Or someone bring you.
So they know that you're completely out there. But yeah, so there's that whole thing of, yeah, when I walk, I think, and what a gift to give our kids. Right? So I think it's time to talk about our program that we're going to have on your property at the Conservancy and Museum of Art. And so it is October 21st, which is a Saturday, and it is from 10 o'clock until noon, roughly on either side. That's just so we'll be guiding a couple of walks, right? One at 10 and then another one at 10:30 on the river trail. So
You'll see one of Stephanie's favorite walks.
Ah,
I love it.
and so we will do the walk in a really attentive way. And so it's an out and back walk. It's not a loop. It can't be a loop unless there's a bridge somewhere.
Yeah.
Not going that far.
No. Yeah.
So it's out and back. And so we will look at things on the way out, and then we will look and see what we missed on the way back. And sort of everybody can participate, parents, kids of all ages, or just kids of all ages, as you say, right? So we will do that and then take a chance to respond to what's there. And so that would be artistically. And so there will be possibilities for that. Can you guys talk a little bit about what there might be afterwards and even during the walking?
So I can say after the walk, there will be opportunities for families or attendees to visit the museum, and there's an opportunity for kind of a guided activity where you can reflect in a creative, artistic way. We'll leave it a little open-ended. We don't want it too structured, but folks will be able to, we'll have some book resources that share wonderful ways to engage with nature. And then participants can do a craft or artistic display of, what they experienced in their walk. And then families or visitors will have the opportunity to view there's an exhibit coming out, Rooted, which focuses on children's book illustrations. And there is a nature theme interwoven through those books. So families will have an activity they can take with them to kind of self-tour and see that exhibit, before the program ends around noon.
Fabulous. Okay. So lots to do. Have we had any questions or comments come in?
Oh.
Oops. We have had something. Let's see. How do you recommend staying connected with nature during the colder months? There you go. Someone looking ahead.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, I can chime in here in that we continue to walk during the winter. So we just do the same thing, except we just prepare ourselves with hats, gloves, and jackets. But it's a very different experience. In the summer, you feel life around you, like it's alive. In the winter, there is a solace there that is a completely different experience. So I would certainly recommend people continuing to go out, maybe at a shorter time frame, just so that is a little more tolerable. But it's a completely different experience. And even if you could get 5 minutes in, it would have the same benefit.
And it really feels great to get back inside
It does.
after you've done that very cold walk or that very damp walk. Yeah. But my daughter lives in Ireland, and there they say there's not really bad weather. There's just poor wardrobe choices.
It's true.
So if you dress right, you're gonna be okay, and you're gonna have that really wonderful feeling of your face warming back up and your hands warming back up, and feeling like you've accomplished something, being outside at the time.
There's something about winter walks that are more feeling oriented and smells too. Like you can feel the air, but you can also smell things in a different way that I think is a very different sensory experience that I encourage everyone to do.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that I love
Yeah.
about winter walks is that without the leaves, you actually can see the birds,
That's true.
less by ear and more by sight. But that's yeah. So that's kind of fun as well. Well, we have reached our time limit here. And I want to thank you both for being with us. This was wonderful. And I am itching to go actually over to Valley Forge and walk on Mount Misery again now that I've been talking about it. So, and there are wonderful walks out just outside your door, just waiting for you wherever you are. And as Julie was saying, inside too. It's bring your attention along and see what happens. So thanks so much for doing this. I am really looking forward to Saturday, October 21st at 10 o'clock at the Conservancy and Museum. And as I understand it, the best place to park is in the museum parking lot. And to meet us right up by the entrance to the museum, you'll actually see a little sign that says River Trail as you're going up there, if I remember correctly. So do come out, do wear good, sturdy shoes. It's not a difficult trail, but it's not paved either.
That's right.
So that's all. All right. Well, thanks so much. And we will, I hope, continue our conversation another time.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
We'll
Okay.
see you on the trail.
Right.
Bring your curiosity.
Yeah.
Thank you.